Thank you for being here for the town hall. And so we have an agenda, and I'm going to ask for Reverend Medora to come up and lead us in our opening prayer to pray us in as we look at our educational program, look at some of the things that are coming up. Thank you, Reverend Medora. So good to see you.
It's wonderful to be back and to see all of you and to know that we're here. What does that mean? He's going like...
Is it not on? It's on. It says on. I hear it. Yeah.
As you know, I'm very tech savvy. Anyway, it's wonderful to see all of you, and I want to pray us in. So let's do feet on the floor, hands out, so we can all absorb the amazing energy that we are all creating. We each stand in our own unique space, but then we come together into this place and this time and right now, and we are all one. Leave outside anything that might distract us. We all come together for the future and the beauty and the wonder of this place. We are grateful for the opportunity to do those things that are ours to do. We love this community, and we will always and in every way serve it to the very best of our ability. And so we come together now as one. And so it is.
So it
Amen.
is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
You want to go through the agenda?
Sure. All right. So you can see the agenda behind me, and we will have a little bit of more introduction of Reverend DeeAnn, some things about her so you can get to know her better. Those of you who are here for the services or watched online, here's an interesting assortment of question and answer, and it continued after the service. People were bringing up more questions, so we'll do it again. And we'll get an education update, and Reverend DeeAnn will introduce this appreciative inquiry process and how that will work so that we can get some feedback from you about this community, about our educational process. And sometimes I think it's because of my past experience as a kid, educational process, I always have to translate that. We're talking about transformational learning, transformational experience. We're talking about what is really helping us to change and connect with one another. And some of the upcoming things that are happening in Unity or Marin, question and answer, and then praying out. So Reverend DeeAnn, you're up.
Hi, everybody. And if you're watching on the live stream, just know that there is a link in the description on the live stream and on YouTube that has the appreciative inquiry process so that you will be able to participate in this as well, even if you are remote. So don't think that we left you out of this. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to climb up here a little bit so I can see everybody a little bit better. I've been reaching out and connecting and talking to a number of you, and I realized in my conversations with a lot of you that people really don't know me or who I am. Or I mentioned to somebody that I'd been at Unity San Francisco for 8 years, and they were like, really? I had no idea. So I thought, let me share just a little bit about who I am and what my background is so that you have a better understanding of what it is that I am bringing to this community. So my birth tradition is Judaism. I grew up in a conservative Orthodox community, conservadox, in a part of New York City that there really weren't many Jews living there anymore, right? So I grew up in, it was a very mixed, very Hispanic neighborhood, Greek Orthodox. Most of my friends were Catholics, Greek Orthodox, or not practicing. I was the only Jewish kid in my immediate neighborhood, though I did go to Hebrew school, and there were other kids that I met in Hebrew school, but they all came from different areas. They weren't from my particular neighborhood. When I was 13, I had an epiphany as I asked the rabbi, well, I was 11, and I told the rabbi I wanted to be a rabbi, and he told me that that was impossible because I was a girl. So I just needed to let go of that idea. So I sat with that a little bit and sort of went, okay, I'm still not so sure about that. And I got to my 13th, my bat mitzvah, and I realized that the boys were being bar mitzvahed on Saturday morning. And let me be also clear, I was, not surprising, I was valedictorian in my Hebrew school class. And the girls were being bat mitzvahed on Friday night. And I asked why that was so. And I was told, so that if God didn't want to hear the words of the Torah from the lips of a woman, it would be said on Saturday morning by a man, implying when it really counted. So, that was the beginning of the end of my relationship with that particular Jewish community. And it led to it was a lot of pain. It was a lot of discomfort. So I became a seeker at the age of 13, looking for the things that would support me. And when I got to college, I found theater. And theater literally became my spiritual home. And for any of you who are in the arts, you know what I mean by that there's an openness, there's a creative flow, there's a willingness to explore, there's a willingness to grow and to change. And I spent the next 20 years practicing within that framework of the theater. So I was a production manager, director, actor, fight choreographer. I was a fight choreographer for about a decade. On Broadway and on off-Broadway in New York City. And I had my own theater company in New York, which was an all-female classical theater company. And we would do all-female classical versions of text, Shakespeare, Afroben. And the mission in that is very similar to my mission now, which was the universality of the story. That within each of us, whether our biology is one thing or another, that there is a universal story that these classical texts in particular can illuminate. I got to the point in my journey as an actor and producer and director where what I was experiencing in the rehearsal hall and when I was on stage was something I wanted in every aspect of my life. I didn't just want it to be in the rehearsal room. I didn't just want it to be when I was performing. I wanted it all the time, that sense of connection, that sense of flow, that sense of allowing, the sense of authenticity. And I still remember my final performance, and I did a bow, and I thought, wow, I've really kind of hit all the bells that I wanted to hit as an actor. And within that moment, my entire world fell apart. As it happens, right? I asked for something new, and it came. And what arose out of that breaking open was my finding new thought. So this is in 2003, and I found new thought, and immediately felt like all the spiritual journeys that I had been on, because even when I was in theater, I was also part of Starhawk's Reclaiming in San Francisco for a couple of years, which was very healing for me to find the divine feminine and to understand that that was holy. I studied Hindu yoga, I studied Sufism. There was a whole lot that I was trying to find the thing that would enable me to understand who I was on that spiritual level. As I shared in the first service, I broke my back when I was 26. And that process really moved me into meditation and spiritual seeking because I was in chronic pain for so long. And in that process, New Thought came into my world. And of course, it had been around me for a long time. It was funny, all my friends who already were in the teaching, but all of a sudden I was ready for it. And I dove into it head first because it literally was saving my life. I picked up and I moved from New York to Los Angeles so that I could become part of Agape. I felt the call to that particular community and to Michael Beckwith and to Ricky Byers. And I spent 4 years becoming an Agape practitioner. I was all set to become an Agape minister at that time. And then my wife, who's French, her boss got stolen away from Caltech and was moving to Princeton University. And because she was French, she had to be working to stay in the country. So we had to move to Princeton. So I could no longer finish the Agape program. And so when I got to Princeton, I enrolled in One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. And I spent 2 years studying interfaith and became an ordained interfaith minister in 2010. The whole time I was doing that, I was serving at the Center for Spiritual Living in Princeton. And I was starting to guest speak, and I was starting to sort of find my footing as a minister. I was also doing a ton of weddings. I had a thriving wedding ministry in New Jersey, because you have to be an ordained minister to do weddings in New Jersey. So I had a huge wedding ministry going on. My wife got work back here in California. She's out at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab. And we did the church shopping that you do. And Unity of Berkeley was a community that was warm and welcoming and opening. Their minister had left about a year before. The community was in a decision-making process about whether to close or whether to continue. And I became their part-time sort of first unofficial minister, and then eventually they officially hired me as their spiritual leader. And that is when I fell in love with the region. So I was being supported by the West Central region as this new minister to the Unity movement. And I really fell in love with the people there and the support and just how wonderful everyone was. I now serve as vice chair of the West Central region because I know how important it is for the communities in this region to have that kind of support. And when Unity of Berkeley when the community decided to close its doors, which was one of the most powerful, transformative, and painful experiences of my life, I sat and I listened to what was next as I took some time off. And Reverend Ken Daigle, who's the senior minister at Unity San Francisco, had been at Unity of Fremont while I was at Unity of Berkeley. And he and I connected and hit it off. And I caught that to go and help support his vision at Unity San Francisco. So I called him and I said, I got this vision that I'm supposed to support your vision. I don't know if you want me. And he was like, are you kidding? So I started supporting and being in leadership at Unity San Francisco starting in 2013. And I believe that if I'm serving in a ministry, that I need to be credentialed in that ministry, that I need to be in alignment with the community that I'm actually serving. So I stepped into the credentialing process. First, I became a licensed Unity teacher. I got tested out of all the electives. They made me take every single test, though, for every single elective. And the ones that I passed, I didn't have to take. And so I was able to, my Agape training was my foundation there. And I was able to step into leadership year at the village. And from there, I then stepped into the field licensing program. And I was serving at Unity San Francisco while I was working to be licensed and then ordained. So I was ordained in 2018. I was licensed in 2018 and I was ordained in 2020. So it all started in 2003 and it finally culminated in 2020. But I have been practicing as a minister since 2011. So that is what I bring, and I bring a varied background. I bring the interfaith component, I bring the CSL awareness and Ernest Holmes, and I also have the deepest love for unity, particularly Myrtle. Myrtle sort of lives in my heart. So I am thrilled. I just wanted you to get a sense of an overview of who I am and what I bring. I am zeal. That is my power. So, and I love change. So get ready, folks, because I'm going to be bringing change, right? That's part of what happens when I'm around. I can't help myself. So one of the things that we're looking for transformation to show up in is with the educational program. And that's why I'm so glad that you're here with me today. And if you're watching remotely, thank you for taking the time to be here. The board has really wonderful and interesting ideas about what they're thinking the educational program can grow into. Reverend Tim and myself have a bunch of ideas about what we think the educational program could grow into. And all of that means nothing if it doesn't actually meet the needs of the community. If it doesn't actually serve you, all those ideas really just don't matter. So this process that I'd like to work through with everyone is so that I know what you would like the educational program to look like. What is it that's going to support you in this transformation of understanding of who you are? As Tim said, this education program is a pathway of transformation. And how can we reimagine and reinvigorate that in a way so that it is initially in service to this community, but ultimately grows and is in service to a much larger community? I want to start here first by listening to your needs and your desires, and then from there, the ideas that we will begin to grow so that we are offering this teaching on a much larger scale. But it begins right here with this beautiful community. And I want to say that for the moment, my purvey is adult education, right? That is where the focus is at the moment. I know that there's a lot of energy and a lot of desire around youth and family. Lissa Masters is doing an incredible job starting the First Fridays and, working to bring the youth. We have youth here. They're younger. They're not the teenagers. They're younger, but we do have them. And Lissa is really working on how we can bring them back into time and space. As you look around, you can see that that's not just a thing around kids not being here in time and space, right? That's something that we are navigating as a community. What are we going to look like post-pandemic or midst of pandemic? How are we going to navigate the fact that maybe we aren't gathering in person as much? How is all of this going to work? So that's, again, where you get to come in. So the educational piece that is, just to give you a sense of some of the ideas that we're thinking about, is one of the ideas is creating pathways. So that if there's certain areas of focus or interest that appeal to you, and this is not a list that is definitive by any stretch of the imagination, this is about just trying to give you a sense of what we're thinking at the moment. So there could be something, there could be a creativity tract, right? And that's where people can take art classes, where they can, all of it grounded in unity principle, all of it centered. The writers group would be part of that, right? A movement class, a singing class, right? Anything in that's about opening up our creative flow, our creative energy. So that could be one example of a pathway. Obviously, we will have a pathway that is dedicated to unity principles. So examples of those types of classes would be metaphysical Bible interpretation, a class on the 12 powers, classes on science and spirituality. I really want to do a Joe Dispenza class, but I need people to be willing to dive into it with me. I thought about it for the book study and just can't do it in 7 weeks. Like it's a 3-month process to dive into the Joe Dispenza stuff. So the science and spirituality piece, metaphysics, right? The metaphysics, the power of metaphysics, really understanding what are actual principles are and how can we apply them. And a lot of the questions that were being asked by Tim and I today, Tim and me today, sorry for those of you who are English teachers, that those are the kinds of questions that will be answered in a course around metaphysics, right? Those are exactly the kinds of questions that can be discussed and introduced, and we just touched the surface today. So in the classes, we can really dive deeper. Another possible pathway might be social justice, taking a look at how Black Lives Matters or LGBTQ+, immigrant rights, income equality. I mean, this list could go on, but how does this actually work with our unity principles? How do we, as a community that, for the most part, tends to identify as a more introverted community, I'm going to exclude myself from that definition, a more introverted community, how do we navigate showing up in the world as these unity principles and really being a force for change? Another could be spiritual practices. Tim and I have talked about him teaching a meditation course this fall, so that we're already looking to kind of deepen what those spiritual practices could be. But it could be meditation, qigong, dream work perhaps, affirmative prayer, of course, absolutely. That's my big passion. And then there's also the idea of having support groups / social groups, right? So they could be around something like grief, they could be a men's group, they could be a women's group, they could be something connected into caregivers. I know we have a lot of people in the community who are caregiving for others, and I personally know how draining that can be. So creating a support system where people can come together and support themselves. So in addition to those kinds of pathways, there's also a bunch of different ways that we can actually do this education program. So the platforms that we use can be varied. So one of the things that I'm piloting this fall is a podcast series. And I know that we sent out an email, and thank you to all who replied on the stress and anxiety and how you feel about that, and those who are willing to be interviewed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, send me an email and I'll send you a link to the form so that if you want to contribute your thoughts about how stress and anxiety impacts your life and how Unity Teachings has made an impact to support you in navigating stress and anxiety. And the idea behind the podcast is we create a trio of 20 minutes on a specific topic. And that this is something that you can listen to, but that you can also share with other people, perhaps people who may or may not know about Unity. You might have something that you can actually invite people to participate and to listen to. And the idea is they're short enough that people can make time for them. Podcasts are big. Classes, both in person, both online, and then a hybrid. Now, the hybrid is great, and we are going to work towards that, but we're not going to get there right away. There's a technological component that goes into doing hybrid teaching that involves literally a ton of equipment and microphones and monitors, and right, in order for it to really work, and that investment we're working our way towards. Right? So for now, the classes are going to be either online or in person. That's going to be, at the moment, that's going to be the option. But we are working to build the hybrid model and put that in place. Small groups. The book study is a perfect example of small groups. It's not actually led by a teacher or a minister. It's actually, there's a facilitation guide. The community is self-leading these kinds of groups. Meditation groups can work that way. Prayer groups, I know there already are prayer groups working that way. That type of educational platform. And then the last one is to do intensives. Kind of like what I talked about with Joe Dispenza, people who are willing to dive into something for 3 months or 6 months or a year, and willing to sort of work with something for the year. And some of those ideas are, I have a course that I call Embodied Principle, which I've been piloting at Unity San Francisco for 2.5 years now. And people love it, and it's a lot. That's what I hear. Like, we love it. Like, oh, it's so much. So I've been paring it down, and so it's what I thought was a 10-week course is probably a 20-week course, honestly. But that kind of thing where you're willing to sort of get in there and do a 10-week and then do another 10-week and really have that continuity. For those people who did the Absolute Abundance program with me, you understand what it means to keep the continuity moving forward for your own transformation. So abundance is obviously one of them as well. And then I'm a big shadow work proponent. And the shadow work piece is something that you definitely want to be gentle with, and you want to take time with, and you want to move through it with ease. So those are just examples of how an intensive course could potentially work. So all of this is to just kind of get your juices going, right? Like I said, none of this is set in stone. All of this is just ideas, what we're thinking, what we're envisioning at the moment. And so what I'd like to do right now is step into this appreciative inquiry process. Has anybody done an appreciative inquiry process before? A couple people. Okay. So this process is powerful and lovely and amazing, honestly. It's how Unity San Francisco discerned its vision, mission, and core values when Ken took over as senior minister. We did this appreciative inquiry process with the entire community. And from the answers that we got, we discerned what were the themes, what were the things that the entire community resonated with and was in alignment with. And from there, we then were able to craft our vision and our mission and our core values. So I'm looking to do something similar for the educational program. I would love at the end to have a clear understanding of what the mission is for the educational program, and perhaps even what the vision is, right? What is it that we're doing, and what is it that we see that we want to grow into? The way this is going to work is you are going to, did everybody get a questionnaire when you came in? Dory, can you get me one? Thank you. I need one, and Tim probably needs one too. How this is going to work is you're going to pair up with someone. Okay, it can be someone you know or someone you don't know. It's really up to you. And you're going to interview each other. So the person who is being interviewed, is not the one writing down what your thoughts are. You're not answering the question yourself on the page. The person who is interviewing you is going to ask you the question. So if Tim and I were paired up, I would say to Tim, tell me a story of the most transformational educational experience you have had. What did you discover? What elements contributed to your new understanding? And how has that reverberated through your life? And then Tim just gets to tell me the story. And the person who is listening is jotting down the main thoughts, the main ideas. What stands out? What are the words that the person is using? What is it that was so transformative for them? And then you just continue on through all of the questions, just asking them what it is and letting them answer. Okay? And then when that's finished, we'll probably have about 15 minutes to do that. Then we're going to switch. And then the other person gets asked what those questions are. The reason why it's ideal, now if you're watching at home and you're by yourself, you can absolutely fill this out on your own, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Part of what appreciative inquiry does is it also helps build community. So as you're connecting with each other and you're listening to each other, that's informing all of this process. And if you're talking, you're more likely to say things that you might not have written, right? As you're just telling the story, you might be sharing things that if you actually tried to write it down, you might edit out. For brevity, I don't want to write so much, right? So the one thing I do ask is that whoever's doing the writing, if you could try to make it legible, I would be so grateful. Because what I'm going to be doing is taking all of these, reading through all of them, collating the data, finding out what themes exist, finding out what seems to be commonalities. And then at the end of September, I am going to share a vision and mission statement with the entire community for the educational department. That's the plan, right? I love ambitiousness, right? So if you're watching online or anybody, if you want to tell your friends, like, please participate. The more information we get, the better, right? The bigger the pool, the better it will be. The link is online, and so people can fill it out online, and I will get it automatically. It will get sent to me, all right? Are there any questions about the process? Look at that. I was clear. Yay. That's always a plus. So what I'd like you to do now is pair up with somebody. Obviously, keep the distance that you need to keep in order to feel safe, but find somebody and pair up. You can scatter yourselves around. You can move chairs if you need to so that or put an empty chair between you. Does everybody have a partner? Let's make sure everybody has a partner. Are we excited about education? I hope so. I'm excited about education. Yeah, as long as we don't need to pair you up with, we might need to pair you up with someone else. So Tim doesn't have a partner. If somebody would like to partner with Tim. Well, we want to make sure that Tim cannot do this if we're uneven or we're even. Okay, we're great. So Charcel, you can pair up with Tim then. Are we good? All right. So let's take a breath together. So let's just stop for a second because we want to do this from the heart space, right? We want to do this from a centered space. We want to try to tap the deepest wisdom. So let's just close our eyes for a minute. And as Medora said, I love, just put your feet on the ground, right? And feel yourself supported. And know that we are anchoring the highest and best for the educational program here at Unity in Marin. And that everything that is arising from within all who are participating in this is blessed and is such a blessing, and that it is all arising from that place that is love and creativity and inspiration. How good that is. And so it is. Amen. So the person with the shortest hair is going to be the first, is going to interview the other person. Yes, and I will tell you when you're about halfway through this process, and then I'll tell you when to switch. so. Page if you can. I just want to make sure we're moving forward. I know it's very easy to start chatting. Chatting. Right now. Be on page 2, the back of it, you should be on that. and then we're going to switch.
Okay, start. Attending 14 classes.
I was trying to take those quickly and they were necessary. The highest one might say this, that, now.
Patience. Acceptance.
I didn't choose, I mean, I was thinking of different, like single events, but instead I would choose arrived in California in 1978 and joined in San Diego. She's just talking about
Viewing is now being interviewed.
more difficult. Almost and then try everything evangelistic Baptist. I tried gurus, I tried mysticism, and they all were esoteric, otherworldly kinds of habits. And this was
Thank you. You're the best.
it wasn't unity, there was much
the shot put thing.
That's the only thing that's she could be talking to someone if she didn't have
experience.
By now. You turn the page.
Where I sleep, where I take care of it because it is my own. Often the lights are turned on.
Every Saturday.
Try and do so. Please. Thank you so much. Oh, and my mic is back on again. Just- So is everyone finishing up here? So I just want to say thank you. I hope the process was illuminating for you on some level as well, helping you sort of discern what it is that you would like to see and what you value and what's important to you. If you could just, I guess, pass them down, and I will collect all of them, and I will collate them and put them all together. Oh yeah, thank you so much, Debbie. Debbie's going to collect them all. Why don't we all stand up and stretch for a minute? Right? Stand up and stretch and shake some life back into your body. Do the hokey pokey, turn yourself around. Sort of wake ourselves up. And if you're watching online or anybody here in the room, if there are additional thoughts that you get or you catch or you're like, oh, this, please know that I'm available, right? My email is revdeann@unityinmarin.org. So please feel free to reach out to me. If you can't remember my email, just send it to the office and Dory will make sure that I get a hold of it. So can we just give each other a round of applause here for stepping into this? Yay! I really love this process because it focuses on what we want. That's why it's called appreciative inquiry. It focuses on what we appreciate, what we want, what it is that excites us. And I'm really looking forward to revealing it to the community later on in September once I sit with all of it and share what the community is asking for. Because that's the only way this program is going to succeed, right? The reinvention of this program needs to be in service to what the community would like to have right now. And we want to also hold a larger vision of what we are being invited to become, right? Because I've got ideas around bringing in master teachers and having them record part of their lectures and then having facilitators here facilitate the classes for people, and right? Like I got lots of ideas, but we're starting, we're gonna build something. So I am gonna turn this over to Tim, because we're moving into what's next.
Oh, what's next? What is next? We have another slide.
And I don't know what I did with the clicker. I lost it. Oh, it's on the music thing. Yeah, that was the debrief.
There we go. Thank you. All right. So as you've heard, World Day of Prayer, September 8th at 7 p.m. right here. And we'll have a labyrinth. It'll be decorated. Prayer chaplains are involved. Prayer chaplains are setting up different prayer stations. You could say altars, different places to experience different kinds of prayer through physical movement, through different ways. It's going to be a powerful experience, and we'll let you know how it's unfolding in terms of, are we going to have some part of it here where we're keeping vigil after the program? Are we going to be holding vigil online? we'll let you know. And just so you know, that we are also doing this in collaboration, at least holding the spiritual space with the Unity San Francisco prayer chaplains, because part of our vision is to create a network of where we're doing things with more New Thought churches, more Unity churches, and I'm looking forward to more and more working in close collaboration with Unity San Francisco and other New Thought centers.
Just so you guys know, at Unity San Francisco, we are announcing that, so Unity San Francisco is going to be telecasting the Unity Village service on our website as part of our World Day of Prayer. But we are announcing that if people want an in-person experiential experience, they should come here.
Yeah.
So we're making that announcement in our community.
Yeah, so it's collaborative.
Yeah, and the prayer chaplains at Unity SF are just so excited to be sharing vigil with everyone. I do want to say, if you are interested in participating in the vigil, if you're online or you're here, it's something you would like to be a participant in. It's a 24-hour vigil that starts at 7 p.m. And goes through till Thursday at 7 p.m. Please let Kathleen O'D know.
Wave. There's Kathleen.
Right. Please let her know. Or you can email the office and Dory will let Kathleen know. We're trying to figure out whether it's going to be in person, online, whether it's going to be a combination. So if you're interested in either one, please let Kathleen know. If you want to be in person, if you want to be online, or if you don't care, you could do either. Please share that with her, and we're going to try and see how much coverage we have.
And the only other thing you might want to share, if you want to do that, is share if you want to.
People online cannot hear you, Kathleen. Thank you. There you go.
So if you do have interest in holding vigil either online or in person, let me know, but also let me know then what time slots you might be willing to do, okay? And then I can get, so this is a fact-finding right now.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm your information
Point
collector.
person. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you. And Writers Fest and Picnic, we've heard about that. Sue Summer, there you are in the back. Picnic, everybody. Writers Fest, tickets. There it is, simple
Buy your
and
tickets.
succinct. No one can hear you online. Everybody has, we have
be
an
mic'd.
online virtual community. Thank you.
This group has been together for 4 years, and people come and go, but there's a core of us, and there are so many funny stories and poems and touching incidents that happen, and we've documented them, and the picnic is going to be really fun, so go out there and have fun, and then come in here. You're going to be invited to do a little writing too during the picnic, and then we'll share in here. But then we're going to be sitting up here and just story and poem after story and poem. It's going to be really, really fun.
Awesome.
Oh, yes, you bring your own picnic. We will surprise
Right.
you with dessert, which is not surprising.
Right.
Yeah, a blanket if you want. There will be some chairs, but blankets.
Right. And what I want to emphasize, picnic, free, Writers Fest, ticket. Because a lot of people have that confused. I want that to be really clear.
Picnic is free. Bring your own. Cake is available, and the event is $20 a person. Kids under 12 are free.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
And all of it is
Thanks.
a fundraiser for
Thank
Unity
you.
and Marin. Let's be clear about that as well.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser. Thank you.
Right.
Fundraiser for
Fundraiser.
Unity and Marin. Book study. Tell us about the book study.
So the book we are going to be doing is Finding Yourself in Transition, Using Life's Changes for Spiritual Awakening by Robert Brummett. He is a Unity minister.
Yeah,
And
it's excellent.
this is a Unity classic in a lot of ways. For anyone who has read it before, you know how wonderful it is. Clearly, this is a time of transition, pretty serious transition for all of us. So the book is topical, it's timely. We have at the moment about 10 or 12 different facilitators who have already agreed to lead the groups. We will, on the 22nd, I'm hoping to be able to have sign up starting so that people can begin to sign up. The book will be available for purchase from the bookstore here starting August 22nd, right? So you can actually pick it up here at that time. It's really a wonderful book, you guys. I've taught this book like 5 times since I've been at Unity San Francisco, and every time the class is filled and people just love it. So even if you've read it before, there's so much in here to bring to what's happening right now. And if you have never read it, which I'm surprised at the number of people who have told me they don't know about this book, then you are really in for a wonderful treat, a wonderful experience.
And I just wanted to say, transition's occurring all the time. All of us are immersed in transition. It's a lifelong process. So, the transition we're going through with the pandemic and figuring out who we are and what we're doing post-pandemic or while we're still in the pandemic, actually. The whole thing of getting real with race, the whole thing of equity and justice is a big transition that is going on in the consciousness of a lot of us in this country and around the world. That is a big transition. And in my mind, that is very much a part of this study, is looking at how we make that transition. The transitions of grief and loss, when relationships end, when someone passes, when your life changes. And let's face it, our lives are changing all the time. So what this book study is offering is ways to work with what we have to deal with all the time. I can't think of a more pertinent topic for us to deal with. Pamela.
Are they going to be in person or Zoom?
So Pamela is asking if they're going to be in person or Zoom, and there's a variety at the moment. There are some people who are willing to host in their home. I will say that everyone who has said that they're willing to host in their home is requiring that everyone be vaccinated in order to come to their house. And then we have a variety of online groups that are meeting online. So you will be able to select. If you're vaccinated, you will be able to select. If you're unvaccinated, for whatever reasons, there will be a multiple numbers of online groups that you can participate in.
Perfect. Thank you. And first Fridays, so first Friday of each month, starting in September, Melissa Masters is having, the drum circle and open mic. And it's a way to engage with families in our community, children, adults, and also to invite people from the wider community to come in so that they can experience a drum circle, so that they can experience open mic. So it's a time to be more open with the whole community. And parking lots. Okay, this particular parking lot over here is in a lot of deferred maintenance. It is falling apart. And Kevin Seaver, Kevin, could you raise your hand? Okay. Kevin has done a lot of research, and I've done this kind of stuff in the past, so my hat's off to you. Looking at different options, the church board has voted to completely redo this parking lot out here, and also to do maintenance on this parking lot. This parking lot is not as bad. So just so you know that that's coming, and I think that's what's coming up, unless, well, we actually have a place for Q&A.
Yes, we do. It's right now.
Is that next?
Yep.
All right, Q&A. So 2 minutes, at the microphone, Max. We just say that so that there's time for everyone to speak that wants to speak. If you have questions, comments, thoughts about any of this that we've brought up today, whether it's about the education program, whether it's about the things coming up, whatever it might be. Here's your chance. You can come up to the microphone. You can, and if you're wanting to speak, you don't have to wait. You can come on up and you can wait and be in the queue, so we're not just waiting for each person to come up.
Okay, I take my mask off. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say this parking lot is a shamble. And this is not going to be cheap. This is going to be very expensive because we're going to do the kind of job that's going to last like 5 years or more.
20.
20 years. Oh my God, 20. See, I mean, isn't that wonderful? There's so much things that we can actually do with that, that parking lot if it's really in good shape and not likely to cause us to fall and kill ourselves. So anyway, I just want to put out there that if you've been thinking about giving us some extra money to Unity and Marin at this point in time, this is a really good time to do this because it's going to be very expensive, very, very expensive. So please be generous if you can. And I have a question for you. What are the benefits going to be to us to have this parking lot? Because you had some great ideas of what we could do with it.
Thank you, Barbara. That was a good. No, complete surprise. So, there's so many things because what we're finding with events right now, we're renting out our parking lots. We're already having events. We're having events in the sanctuary, but even more, we're having events in the courtyard and in the parking lots. Because of the pandemic budget, looking at what happened through the pandemic, the church board decided because nothing was coming in with events, we budgeted for zero income on events. We had to just wait and see. And I believe, Linda, by the end of June, I think it was, June or July, there was a gross net of over $19,000 that came in through events. And Debbie is doing a phenomenal job.
Yay, Debbie.
I've seen her system. She has all these different events. So there are things like the Marin Symphony that will be coming in weekly to practice in here. There's all kinds of events, but it's not going to be as viable to have events if we don't have a good parking lot for people to park on. And in order to have some of these big events, some of them will be on a parking lot. We had an event on this parking lot where people were dancing, and it was extremely dangerous because there's loose gravel, there's loose pavement. And so we're really wanting to fix this up. And so it's for events. Our church is going to continue to grow as people come back. Also, the children walk back and forth across this parking lot. So it is an investment in the future of this particular physical plant. That's why the church board unanimously voted to establish and make this the very best it can be. I hope that responds to your question, Barbara. Okay, thanks. Any other questions, comments? You can come on up. You don't have to wait. You can be up here waiting and yeah. Tom.
All these plans for education just sound fabulous and kind of a rebirth of Unity and Marin. Are there plans for a wider community publicity of what's going on here to get the word out to people who don't know about us?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Respond or you? You might
We can tag team.
Yes. So, yes.
Yes, Tom.
Yes. And wanting to get that word out in more ways, looking at ways to do that, in terms of social media, in terms of our local newspapers, including digitally with our newspapers, which I know you have advocated. Getting that word out in really good marketing. And so more will be revealed. And DeeAnn.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think education is one of those, powerful windows where we can begin to draw a much larger, more diverse community to come and join us. And that's what I see. Like, that's the vision that I see. That's the vision that I'm holding, is that eventually, they may or may not be part of the community at Unity in Marin, but they will come to take classes at Unity in Marin. There's a real groundswell happening right now, and people are changing their habits around how they connect with spiritual community, and we have to adapt and grow with how that is transforming. And a big piece of that is that people are connected to multiple communities. They're not just committed to one community. They are touched in with a variety of communities that feed them and nourish them. And my vision is that Unity in Marin's educational program is one of those places that people come because they know that there's a wide variety of options that are available to them that will nourish and will feed them. That's my intention. But we do want to keep, this is the change, this is the transformation, right? For whether you're going to like hearing it or not, church as we knew it is no longer. It is no longer. And this movement to the virtual world, this movement to people touching down more lightly in a variety of places has been brewing for a long time, and COVID just sort of pushed it right to the forefront. And that's the gift. The gift is that it's right here, it's right now, and we get to navigate it, and we have eyes open, and we get to say, what new things can we do? And that's why I think that there will always be classes that will be happening here in person, because that's a vital part of the community. And there will also be classes that happen online, because that will become a vital part of the community. And so my invitation would just be that we all breathe into this together, because we don't know what's coming. And I would love for us to hold that it's exciting and that there's potential here and there's new ideas that if we're willing to let go of the model that we know used to work, if we're really willing to let go of that, what can we create? I mean, I think back to what the founders created here. And when they created this, they created this out of, vision and ideas and inspiration. They didn't know what they were actually going to be creating. They just stepped into the process of it. And that's the energy that I'd like us to engage with the educational program with, and also just in general with what we're doing here with services and all of that. So that's my 2 cents on that whole piece, Tom.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Anyone else?
When will the book study start? September 20th.
Okay, you're not going to come up front. I'm trying to get that culture change. The question is, when will the book study start? It's starting the week of September 20th, and it will meet on different days, different times, because there will be all kinds of different facilitators, and some of it in person, some of it online, so you'll have a choice. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You're a wonderful community. Thanks. Where are we at? Are we at praying out? Okay. It's so wonderful to be with you all. Thank you for hanging in there, for being together to build this together. This is our community. It's up to us to create what we want here. I want to really emphasize that point, and I know a number of you are watching online. It's up to us to what we create here. And we can create whatever it is we want. Do you believe that?
Yes.
That's right. We do create whatever we want.
Let's go viral.
So,
And we will manifest.
be it done to you according to your belief. We are working together as a community, as a body, to create our future. The future for people who are not even here yet, who don't even know we're creating this. So let's pray into that. I invite you to take a deep breath. And we know together in this moment that Unity in Marin is blessed, that we align in the divine presence. We are not bound by circumstances, by our impressions of what has been done in the past, although we learn from that and build on that. But we march forward with a divine pressing forward, the Spirit of God pressing forward as us to touch this community, to touch this world with divine spiritual teachings and transformative experiences. We are this. We commit to this. We open to this. And we give thanks for this wonderful adventure that we are on. We give thanks for Reverend DeeAnn, for each person who is here. We give thanks for this divine movement of spirit called Unity in Marin. And we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right.